everybody, and welcome to the fourth episode of the Inside World Season 2 with my good friend Alisha Thomas. Hey, Alisha, how's it going?
Hi, Ashish. I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. It is such a humbling experience, and I'm just so thrilled to actually have you on the show.
Oh
And
my gosh.
yeah, so the funniest thing is that me and Alisha actually go back to 2009 in Washington.
Sure. Yes.
Yeah,
If
so
that's the year, then yeah.
so
All I know is a long time ago.
yeah, so I met Alicia in a wedding in Maryland. Actually, I think it was in 2010, and you sang the song called "Be Thou My Vision," and then during the reception, you sang this Malayalam song. I'm like, oh, okay, this is very
Oh.
interesting. So I asked one of our mutual friends, like, what's the scene over here, and she's like, Alisha has been singing Carnatic music since she was 3. And I'm like, okay, that has a good storyline over there. So, I've been in touch with Alisha ever since, and she is an amazing person to work with, and her works are amazing. And most of you guys would have known a couple of her works in the industry. And for this particular episode, what we are looking at is understanding how you can analyze your target industry better. And Alisha is a wonderful playback singer, and she's worked with multiple personalities and amazing artists that are there in the industry. And she comes with a lot of learnings and experience for jumping into the Indian film industry. So Alisha, from the start of this episode, there's always this tradition that we have where we ask certain musicians on how they've made that jump into their artist careers. Like a typical Indian family, it's pretty hard to convince your parents to do full-time music, but you always do an undergrad first just to stabilize yourself before you jump into the roller coaster. So tell me about your jump. Like, tell me about your artist journey and how you decided to take music as your full-time career.
Yeah. So I definitely fall into that boat of, being in the family of high achievers and, high expectations for all of the children to go into stable fields so that you can make money and support your family. And I did end up doing that. I got a degree in business administration with a minor in information systems. However, leading up to that, my whole life was centered around music, because I started singing around the time that I started to talk, when I was 2, 3 years old. And then when I was 5, actually, so I didn't start when I was 3, but when I was 5, I started Carnatic vocal training, which is also something that's really rare and almost unheard of, at least at that time, for a South Indian or Malayali Christian girl to go into the Carnatic field. But that was because of my dad's love for music and exposure to Carnatic music growing up for him. So he was like, all right, well, we have a teacher here in the area. Let's go for it and just put her in lessons. So that's kind of what kickstarted me into that whole world. But it took a lot of little turns, here and there. But I did start performing professionally when I was about 9, 10 years old. And that continued on throughout, middle school, high school, college. And so even though I was getting a degree in something completely not related to music, I was constantly performing on weekends. That was my side hustle. That was my hobby growing up. And my dad actually accompanied me everywhere I went for all of my shows, because I was a young girl at the time. And so essentially what made me, I guess, take that little jump or plunge was as soon as I graduated college, there weren't really many jobs available, even in my field. That's a pretty prominent field and very stable, because at that time, the US was in a recession period. And so didn't really matter what was on your resume and how much experience you had, but it was really hard to find a job. And so the first job that I got was at a mega church in Chicago that was looking for a program director. And I also was able to fill a vocalist role there. So that kind of pushed me into the arts field, the creative space. I was there for 2 years. And then is when that's really when it kind of became this this moment where it was like, oh, do you really want to pursue this dream that you've always had of, you know, making music your full-time career? And that's kind of what, that was the moment. After those 2 years of working in Chicago, I figured out, all right, I guess might try this out. But even then, it wasn't, I want to make it clear, I didn't have an exact goal in mind. I didn't really know what I was doing. I kind of just took a risk, and I think it ended up working out pretty well for me, but I'm still, you know, still on the journey. I haven't made it yet. You know, I'm still, you know, waiting for you know, the next opportunity, or, you know, looking forward to the next thing. And it's an exciting journey. So yeah.
Yeah.
I think
You know,
that's in a nutshell.
I think everyone's definition of I've not made it yet would be different from person to person.
Totally.
But Alisha, you know,
Definitely.
so when you made that jump and when you decided to jump into the Indian film industry, it was a big decision, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
back then you would not have thought about it too much. You're like, okay, this is what I want to do. I just want to jump into it because this is my calling, this is my passion. I want to do it for the rest of my life. But you know, since you've been in this industry for quite some time, you understand how the industry works. You understand how you know, the type of work that is out there. You understand the type of volume, how much you get paid, and you actually know how to analyze the industry than how you could analyze it before, right? So I just want your perspective on this particular topic, where if there is somebody similar to you, or if there's a particular musician that wants to come into the industry, how would you analyze the industry these days, or how would you guide somebody to see if the industry that they're targeting is actually a good fit for them?
That's a very tough question, I feel, because I never really thought of myself as being, you know, an analyst in this way. Because I, you know, as creatives as well, it's really kind of hard to put things together in a systematic format, because a lot of what happens is, you know, based on being at the right place at the right time. However, there are, you know, of course, there are a lot of things that we can do on the front end, right, to kind of set ourselves up for better, you know, outcomes. So in that sense, I would say the key is to know, like, kind of what you bring to the table, and to really just have a better idea of like what it is, which avenue you want to pursue, right? Because the music field, the entertainment field in general, is so vast that there's a lot of different options. There's so many different genres also, right? So for me particularly, I would say, you know, a huge factor in even having a dream to sing for films was purely based off of my experience up until that point, right? Which has to do with my Carnatic training, all of my performance experience, which, you know, I was really lucky to be able to perform with people, local musicians and musicians from India, and playback singers from India, all the way up until that point, even though I wasn't a full-time musician and I wasn't a complete, you know, professional in the music field. All of those things kind of added up and gave me a little bit of a platform in order to, you know, say, okay, you know what? Yeah, this is something that I think I could do. And also having the feedback from your peers, right, in the industry at that time, right? Whether it's local musicians or the playback singers that I was working with, having them kind of feed into what I was doing and kind of encourage me in that way was also really helpful. So I would say that that's, like, from my own personal experience, that's I guess what I would say in terms of like how to maybe determine where you want to go. Did I answer that properly, or do you need more?
So I think one important point that you actually made in your statement was, you know, as a musician, you only look from a creative standpoint rather than analyzing it, because you know, like you said, it's you know, being at the right place at the right time is how most of these people that are big in industry have come across, you know.
Yeah.
But see, there are two types of artists that are out there, you know, like when you look at it, some people would have gone through a particularly curated strategy which gave them
Mm-hmm.
success, or some
Mm-hmm.
people just happen to be there at the right time and they just they just knew how to do it very naturally, and that kind of signified a particular strategy that would have worked in the industry. And it's very true.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at this after a couple of years and you understand, okay, that's what I did, that's why it helped, and that's why I'm getting that kind of a success. And it's really
Mm-hmm.
nice to actually see through your experience on how important it was on the on certain things that you did in the industry that make sure that you're good fit for it, rather than just jumping into it, being blind, and
Yeah,
then doing trial and error. Even though trial and error gives you a lot of learning experience, but sometimes it
sure.
kind of wrecks your career at certain stages. But yeah,
Totally.
so when you look at the aspect of our industry, right? It's always important that you diversify your income, like
Mm-hmm.
the different avenues from where you actually bring money in to sustain yourself, uh,
Mm-hmm.
sustain yourself in the industry. So you know you've been in the industry since 2015, 2016,
Yes,
2015, right?
2015.
Yeah.
Yes, 15.
So since 2015, you've not just been a playback singer, you've also been a freelancer doing multiple arrays of projects, right? So from all your years of experience from being a freelancer in the industry, you would have had a couple of life learnings and a couple of do's and don'ts that are there, right? So if there was somebody who wants to be a freelancer in the future in the creative field, what do you think are a couple of things that they should keep in mind, to make sure that they're making the best out of their freelancing career?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is to have an open mind, right? And to really understand that this field is not an easy one. It is not for the faint of heart, as they say. Like, you really have to have some thick skin. You got to be able to take some criticism. You have to be able to criticize yourself, right? Like, there's a lot of us out there. I think there's also two types of musicians that are like the kind that think that, oh yeah, everything's great and I'm amazing, right? And then there's the kind that's like constantly like, oh my gosh, I actually suck, like, or I really need to work on this thing, and I tend to think that those of us who are more critical of ourselves in a healthy way, right, are the ones who are pushing ourselves to be better. And so then that automatically, the more that you kind of put work into your craft, the better it is, right, for yourself personally. And then also opportunities come, because the more you're working on something, the more it's evident to others as well. So I would say, yeah, have an open mind, be critical of yourself, like constantly be pushing yourself. And having an open mind also means don't close any doors, in, so to say. Like, any opportunity is an opportunity. And unfortunately, that does mean a lot of, unpaid gigs and, unpaid projects, which, I can go into that whole thing for days. All musicians can, right? Where it's just not fair, to an extent, but it does play a big role, right? So saying no to certain things can actually close doors to other opportunities in the future. So I would just say, yeah, having an open mind is the key. You got to be able to want to do a lot, learn as much as you can, keep pushing yourself. It's really hard work though. So it's like, it's just like, you got to be able to make some sacrifices too, I would say that's
It
the main
reminds
thing.
me of the Yes Man movie, Jim Carrey. Like, yes,
Yeah.
everything that comes in. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So, I mean, you still want to be a little selective. You don't want to just like completely be like, I'll do anything.
Sure.
Yeah, it's about, and that's also a good point, right? Like, you don't want to be the yes man either. You have to kind of maintain your standards. So there is a little bit of, I guess, yeah, analysis that goes into it, right? Subconsciously, where you're thinking, okay, this opportunity has come my way. Does it really fit into my brand or kind of where I want to be headed, right? Or is it just something that's, like on the side, and either thing is okay, right? But you just have to be willing to like deal with the consequences, whatever it might be. So Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good point, actually. So Alisha, while you're freelancing in the industry, what all kind of work do you actually take? So you're primarily a playback singer. So apart from being a playback
Sure.
singer, what all areas do you actually put your hands into?
Yeah. So part of being a playback singer means that you're also a performer, right? Because you perform not only in the studio, you are essentially giving your voice to the actors, right, on the screen. So you do have to. There's a lot of acting that's involved and a lot of performance that's involved in playback singing. So that was one big learning that I had was like, growing up, I just grew up listening to Bollywood music or summer music and whatever it was. And I would just kind of lip sync along, or I mean, not lip sync along, sing along and kind of imitate what I heard. But so much of it has to do with the actual meanings of the songs and what's happening on screen and being able to depict that with your voice. So that was a big thing. So performance for sure. In studio, but also on stage. Lot of stage performing, a lot of event performing, which there's a lot of opportunity for that in India as opposed to in America. So that's a good thing. And then I do a little bit of voiceover work. So that's like more like speaking voice stuff, which for musicians is interesting.
I kind of forgot about this. We have Alisha who did the voice for Frozen for the Disney movie. Yeah. So we've got big stars over here. But yeah, that's
my gosh.
So when I heard about this, I was like, Alisha, you caught the role. That was amazing. But congrats. But
yes, thank you for Frozen 2. For Frozen 2, yeah, definitely. That was an incredible opportunity. I'm so grateful for that. So there's a little bit of that. A little bit of vocal arranging. So for different projects that may not be my own, different music directors would need someone to, arrange multiple voices, like a chorus, harmonies, things like that. A little bit of production work when it comes to like, again, other projects or even my own, in terms of like mixing, editing a track, tuning voices. Those are big things and very time consuming. And I think, and then in addition, I teach vocal lessons as well. So I think those are the main things that I've been able to diversify within this field and they're all things that I really enjoy. And
so
keeps me busy.
So here's a wild card question for you. Okay, so if you could travel back in time and you could meet the Alisha who's just getting into the industry, what would you tell her?
Oh my gosh, like what to do differently?
Anything. Like if you can just spend 5 minutes with Alisha in the past, just before she's getting into the industry, what advice would you give her?
Oh man, I think I would say that's a really tough one. Never really thought about that. I guess I would say to believe in yourself more, because it's really hard when you're kind of going through it and especially when you're just starting to think that like, oh wait, maybe I'm not good enough for this, or like, this isn't really for me. But I think to just really trust the process and to like believe in what you have or the skill sets that you've been working on, right? Like, I mean, I would say unless you're just like a bum and you're just sitting around doing nothing and expecting things to fall into your lap, all of us are working at what we have, and we're putting a lot of time and energy into it. And I think it's about believing in that and really being confident in like, okay, you know what? Yeah, I'm doing this. Like this is for me, and I'm going to trust the process, and I'm going to trust that things are going to happen outside of my control, but I'm just going to go with it, and be a little bit easier on yourself, I would say.
Well, that's wonderful, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, so Alisha, so coming to the final portion of the episode. So What's in store for your future? Like, what's happening? Like, is there anything interesting coming our way?
That's always a really fun question for us creatives. We don't know. I don't even know what's happening today, really. You know, like I know this call is happening, right? Then the rest of my day is, you know, just could be anything. But no, I mean, I think in terms of my future, I'm just really grateful, first of all, to be able to be in this space, to be a musician. It's a really unique place to be. And I feel that it's a privilege because, you know, not everyone gets the opportunity to do what they love full time, especially in a creative space, because it's really hard to kind of make ends meet sometimes, right? But again, like as long as you have that passion and drive, which I think I have it. I'm working on it. You know, there are some hard days out there, but most days I feel pretty good about things, and I'm just looking forward to continuing the journey. Really, it's scary, but it's really exciting how there's so much out there that, you know, has been done but hasn't been done, right? And to kind of just be able to explore that and continue to experiment and collaborate and just work more on my craft. Like, you know, I think it's just really cool. One thing that I'm learning through teaching as well is that, like, you never stop learning, like you never stop growing. And once you do, then I think you're in trouble, right? So just that whole process of learning and growing, and continue to put more music out there and connect with people. I think that's what I'm really just looking forward to with each opportunity.
Do you have any interesting projects or anything that we can look forward to in the coming months?
Nothing specific, but like nothing that I can name right now.
Okay.
But I am working on some of my own original music and some covers. So yeah, so stay tuned. Most of that stuff is all on, you know, my social media and pretty easy to find. But I mean, again, it's a process, and sometimes it like takes longer than necessary, and or longer than you want it to take. And deadlines are always a, you know, interesting thing in this industry because everything's constantly moving. So it's hard for us to really name certain things and be like, oh yeah, this is coming out on this date and this is coming out then, you know. But it's more just like a general stay tuned. There are things happening, and
it reminds me
would
of
love
the
for
fact,
people to.
So it reminds me of the fact that you learn more from the journey than the destination.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't even know what the destination is in music or like in this entertainment business. It's tricky. It's really not, I mean, you know, that's why I think it's so different and unique, because most other fields, right, that are not creative have a destination, right? You're studying for years to become a doctor, and then you're a doctor. That's the destination, right? Like, you know, of course you're still learning in the field as you go, but there's not really, I mean, that's kind of the end, right? And then you can kind of do what you need to do. But for creatives, it's so much more like, you know, unpredictable. But that makes it fun, right? So I think that's the cool thing about being a creative, and to like really embrace that and be like, yeah, you know what, like we're unique that way. And not everyone's wired in this way that you can kind of just go with the flow and figure things out. And, you know, but it's really fun. It's really fun and exciting if you look at it from a positive perspective. So.
Thank you so much for this, Alisha. You know, it's amazing how, you know, I've been able to witness your journey all the way, through all these years, and the crazy projects that you've actually got through. And I am just psyched to see what's in store for you in the future. And hopefully, if things do work out, do come onto the show again, and I'd be thrilled to host you again over here. And thank you so much for your time. And I wish you all the best for your future.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. It was my pleasure.